Fantastic. Got it. Yes, as Sonali shared, I will be talking about a project that I did recently that uses healthcare data and actually health-related data in a way that was new for me, but involved some fun data analysis and data communication strategies that when Sonali and I talked, we thought it might be interesting to the group. So this is a project that was really approaching some questions around circular economy and resilience within communities. And this is work that I did that was supported by Next Cycle Washington, and I completed the work with my colleagues at Start Consulting and Kummel Design. So this project was focused on looking at the intersections, and I mean geographic intersections, between systemic risk, resilience, and circular economy efforts. And it was a mapping project. So the project was trying to provide a new tool that used publicly available data to identify where individual communities had specific threats to those communities that were related to environmental changes that impacted health, and where the tools were available or not available for those communities to respond to those threats. And so the particular lens that we were looking at was circular economy. So that means the circular economy was new to me when I started this project. So I learned a lot about that. But circular economy, for those of you who don't know, is the economy of things that are reused, repaired, and shared. So rather than taking raw materials and turning them into a new thing that then is either used up or discarded, the circular economy is the economy of products and services that are recycled in a way. And so there's been a lot of interest lately around resilience as we look at how communities have responded to pandemics and wildfires and things like that. And so many governmental agencies are interested in identifying strategies that might be able to improve resilience before a catastrophe happens. And so this particular project was asking, where are communities at most need, have the most need, and where is the existing circular economy network? And part of the challenge of that is that the circular economy network is often not governmentally organized. So it tends to be more organically created and interconnected. And so it's not monitored in the same way that, for example, garbage collection and municipal recycling programs would be. So there was a mismatch between an interest and a availability of data. And so that's what this project was about. So we were trying to highlight where funding and resources have been directed to these community-focused projects, and then trying to understand those efforts in the context of their risk and resilience of those communities to the extent that we can measure them. The why behind this was so that people could identify areas that, for example, had high risk and low resilience and did not have existing circular economy structures, so that funding and efforts could be targeted to those areas. And this is exclusively on Washington State, because that's who was funding the project. The second purpose was to foster interconnectivity between these existing circular economy efforts. Because, as I said, it's often not monitored and published to the extent that other sort of formalized economies are. So, who was our audience? Our audience were funders who were looking to support circular economy initiatives, usually for the purpose of enhancing community resilience. The other audience were folks who were seeking funding for their circular economy projects, usually in order to support the resilience of a specific community, whether they were existing or aspirational circular economy efforts. And then the third audience is sort of anyone who's interested in the connection between circular economy efforts and risk and resilience, and trying to sort of facilitate the understanding and also facilitate conversations around those interconnections. So what we did is we took two sources of publicly available data. One was a national data set and one was a state-specific data set. So the national data set was from FEMA, and it's a publicly published threat to resilience index. I believe they use 21 different metrics from the census to identify census tracts that identify a score. They calculated a score for each census tract in the country that identified the threats to resilience in response to a variety of challenges. Second data set, also publicly available, was published by the Washington Department of Health, that identified the risk that each community faces to as a result of environmental threats that would impact health disparities. And basically we mashed them together, we combined them into a new index, which is the combination of these two, right? So in this new index, a census tract with a darker shade will be a census tract that has a high level of risk, risk to that community, and a low level of resources to respond resiliently to that threat. Then we overlaid on top of this index the existing circular economy structures, efforts that we had data on around the state. The different colors relate to where their funding came from, and we can get to that. But the fun part for me was that this data was interactive. So we built a website where, and this is, I'm showing you the version that's on my company's website, but various iterations of this are now being placed on different websites around Washington as they use it for their own effort. So what we have is an interactive map. It's built in Tableau, where a user, sorry about this, everyone. Tableau is funny sometimes. Okay, so each census tract you can hover over and get more information. You can also hover over specific circular economy efforts to learn more about what is that dot right there. the tool allows you, so for example, say I'm only interested in learning about the circular economy efforts that are in very high risk, low resilience census tracts. I can, well, so these are all the organizations that are in the whole map, if we look at the entire state with no filters, but I can limit it to just the very high risk, low resilience census tracts, and that will give me a different list. So these are all of the, oh, it's not gonna let me. Give me, yeah. Oh, Tableau. Is it gonna let me scroll? Oh, I guess there's, the list ends here. So there's nothing to scroll through. So those are the only circular economy efforts within these, the range of risk levels that I've selected. It also gives me some information about those organizations. So what type of organization are they? Are they public, private, community focused? What type of circular economy effort do they engage in? I could also say I'm only interested in the efforts that are in a particular region, or that focus on a particular type of resilience factor or material. So this tool then has been shared, and I'll tell you some of the feedback that we've had about it so far. But obviously there are many limitations to doing any work with data sources that we didn't create ourselves. So, and there's also many challenges with working with census tracts. So we are using data to identify the different circular economy efforts that have been collected manually. So that's always a problem. So this is a, the dots on the map were all assembled through very manual processes that are, in my opinion, one of the most precarious parts of this. We're also very aware that there are whole regions within Washington state that we have not captured the circular economy efforts, in particular reservations and indigenous communities. It's also manual, in addition to being a manual process now, it's a manual process for moving forward. So any iteration of this will require additional verification and cleaning, and so that's a problem for this project moving forward. But we do hope to gather more information as we go. The census tract data itself is gathered from publicly available data sets that were created to do something very different. And so we are necessarily running into problems where the purpose of the data has been shifted. And, you know, I'm mashing together two different data sets that were collected during different years. So we have problems in aligning the accuracy of the data from one year to another. We also, census tracts aren't the same from year to year. So we've had to do some stitching together of when, and that's not unusual when working with census tract data, but it's just always a limitation when doing an analysis like this. Yeah, okay. And of course, with any geographic analysis like this that uses a chloropleth approach, we're always at risk of aggregating within a particular census tract very different populations, and that's always that's a challenge. Census tract was the smallest geographic region I could use for this particular analysis. And it's definitely better than zip code or county, but it's still a problem and needs to be called out. So far, we've heard from circular economy groups, the communities served by those circular economy groups, and governmental agencies and private funding agencies about this. Said, is this helpful? How would you use it? What does it tell you? And we've received a lot of good input, mostly favorable. The most excited folks about this are the grassroots community-based organizations who are seeking funding and are trying to identify how do I articulate the need for this resource in this community. And at one focus group we did, a community member said, the grant kind of writes itself. Like, you can just say, like, this, I want to put this, biochar project, this composting project, this food waste project in a region that has a risk and resilience score of 90. And so here is the demonstration of, at least by these indices, there is need for improving the resilience of the community. Now then the community member gets to say, I think my project will improve resilience in these ways. The funders have said that this is an interesting approach and one that they like. Of course, we all want to see modifications moving forward, but they pointed out that previously these types of gap analyses were always performed by a market analysis, which is interesting, but different, and is maybe not so appropriate for a lot of functions within a community. And so this is sort of starting some conversations around what are the other ways in which we've been missing tools to be able to evaluate community needs, and could they be something more like this? It's also facilitated some networking opportunities between organizations. So for example, we've shown this map to groups who have said, who've thought that they were all alone in what they do. And then while staring at the map, they say, who's that? Like, could we work with them? Like, they're nearby. I didn't even know they existed. Like, what are they working on? And so we've been realizing that this can also, a future iteration of this might have lines drawn between the dots to show collaborations and existing communication networks between the groups. So we're learning. It's a new approach. So far, I think the big push for more data at this point is to identify the organizations that are not here, and to facilitate sort of a statewide, not a clearinghouse, but like an aggregation of data around the organizations that are already working. So the connection to health and health disparities is, I think, in considering the resilience aspect of this, and that the data that went into this analysis is directly from a Washington State Department of Health database around health and health disparities. And this is a way in which that data is being used for sort of a broader approach to community health, like with the big H. So that's what I had to share, and would love to get questions.
I'll stop recording now and then we will follow up with questions.